Hello and welcome to the first, hopefully of many, digital labels and packaging podcasts. With me, Michal Dej. This podcast will look to mirror the content of the magazine, Digital Labels and Packaging, which is so well known, and offers us a chance to delve into topics and subjects in a slightly different way, which I hope you'll all find interesting. So on today's episode, which I've called Forgotten Promises, we look at the legacy of personalisation in the digital print for labels and packaging sector. And to help me talk about this today, joining me is Greg Bentley, EU Packaging Director and SMEE COO Suntory, Stefan Casey, Head of Ecosystem at IOTT Sharpend, and Stephen Westwood, Commercial Manager Monochrome Domino Printing Sciences. So I think you're all very well versed in digital print and personalization, and really are a group of experts for this topic. So I first thought about this topic because, let's say, when I first started in the industry, it was really when digital print for labels packaging was starting to become a lot more mainstream. So all of a sudden, you had a lot more players in the print market using digital tech for labels and packaging. And from that came a lot of dialogue about the possibilities and opportunities of digital print. And of course, around 2013, 14, everyone was getting very excited about the prospect of personalization, and to the point where everything from your toothpaste that you use in the morning to the sandwich you bought at lunch would be personalized to you. So I just wanted to look at that sort of, 10, 12 years later as to what the legacy is of digital print in labels and packaging, and see where the market is today and how it fits and why and what makes it good. So, I mean, shall we just look at the sort of the first question of the session and look at, is personalization, is it still giving brands a competitive edge, or, has it sort of become table stakes in some ways?
I think certain brands have definitely taken that on board, and it does give them that competitive edge. And more so on some of the packaging side, I think it's the top end packaging boxes and things like that. And yeah, it's now, how do we make that more mainstream so everybody can embrace it with that personalisation, whether it be a simple QR code or a personalised box.
Yeah, I guess I kind of agree and disagree. It's one of those, I was one of those guys on stage 13 years ago saying digital print will take over conventional. I think we've all had a stint. I'll throw myself under the bus when I said that. It won't quite, but I do genuinely feel that the timing is definitely right. It's not quite ready, and depending on what data you're looking at, is it 3 or 10% of the print industry? I don't know. You can massage whatever numbers you like, but ultimately, personalization and the promise was not just about the variable data, but it's more about the relevance. I think, we need to make sure that whatever we're doing with the personalized customization elements, that it has to be relevant and not just, sorry to put you on the spot, but not just the name on a bottle anymore. That's had its day, but in the world of gifting and that kind of territory, I still want my name on the bloody bottle. I do, and Auntie May wants it, and Doris and everybody else. When I did the Quality Street tins personalisation in store, I think I spent about 200 quid giving all my relatives a personalised tin. So that is still a gift-worthy thing that's going to happen. But I don't think, even now, and the technology in my world and all our world is old, is that the brands have the connected infrastructure. Yeah, they're getting there, but they don't have that meaningful kind of scalable experience that personalization can really genuinely unlock. There are hero brands out there and there are people doing it. But I think that's been the issue and is slowly turning the dial. And also, I think, HP led the way. They had the march on the technology. Let's face it. And we have Domino as well. Have got digital capability. But now what's exciting is we've got loads of players, and Chinese are entering the market. So that brings costs down. It brings scalability. It brings competition. And I think that is where now I genuinely feel, dare I say it, 13 years on, digital's time is now. And it's beyond the print. We have to think digital.
Interestingly, you use the dates of 2012, 2013, and I think the example that we all talk about regularly, which I'm still very proud to say I was involved with the Share a Coke campaign. But if anything, I think it was ahead of its time. At digital print, I mean, Christian Melangong from HP had been coming in every year on year. Before I joined Coke even, every year he'd knock on the door and he'd come in and spend an hour sitting there drinking coffee, telling me how great digital print was and giving me examples of what digital print could do for my brands, both in the cosmetics company and then when I joined Coke. And we did nothing with it. I mean, we took the technology, we understood what it did, and we put it in our toolkit of technologies. It was only when someone came along and said, I need to put different names on Coke bottles so that we can do this personalization campaign. So it wasn't because of digital print. Digital print enabled it, but it wasn't the reason we did it. You know, it didn't inspire us to do it. Someone else came up with the idea and digital print was the solution. And I think there was a lot of hype at the time as well. Everyone's like, oh, this is it now. Everyone's going to want their name on everything. And suddenly you saw, you know, we go to digital print conferences. I've still got what is it? A lip seal something at home with my name on it. You know, everything you could buy with your name on, I've bought with my name on. Or I have a weird digital pseudonym that I always use, Barry, so I always get it in Barry instead of Greg. But so I've got everything from whiskey to, you know, you name it, Kit Kats, whiskey. I've got it all with Greg on, but it doesn't really solve a problem. Like those, I don't really need a lip balm with my name on. It's not like a confusing thing. A sports bottle on the side of a pitch, I want my name on that. That's useful. So looking, you know, now personally where we are with Lucozade, that can be useful to have a sports bottle, or a way of identifying. So I think there was a big hype at the time back in the day, and it sort of dropped off since. Lots of people invested a lot of money in it, which is good because what then happened is the basis of the industry became bigger. And then once people had got the infrastructure to deliver digital print, they went out looking for where it actually solves problems. And to me, that's one of the biggest key. You find a technology like digital print, you get very excited. We all get very excited about digital print. It's cool, it's great. But where does it actually solve a problem for now? And at the time, as I said, Coke was one, sticky label on it, brilliant, solved a problem, big volumes. But that's not going to solve. You don't assume that putting names on things is always going to be the problem. I think the biggest opportunity today, and a lot COVID has had to do with this, is the direct to consumer market. And without doubt, that was the biggest problem. You know, Coke didn't print Stefan on a bottle for Stefan. They printed Coke on a bottle for anyone to find to give to Stefan. It wasn't true personalization, in fact. It was just variable data printing, and the data happened to be names. The consumer did the difficult part of getting that bottle to the person whose name was on the bottle. Whereas direct to consumer model, now I bought a bottle of, is it Dutch Barn? The Ricky Gervais vodka. I bought a bottle of that overpriced vodka the other day, just because of my political views as much as anything else. But I wanted to support Ricky in his battle. Not that he needs the money, but you know, I bought that. They've got my data. That's a perfect opportunity. So I've just got a message on my phone saying it's arriving today. I'm excited to get home and see if they've done anything with that other than just send me a bottle of vodka. But that's where the opportunities are for digital print, because it's coming to me. They know who I am. They've got that opportunity now. The development of the technology is there. They could do late stage. They can put Greg on my bottle of Dutch Barn vodka, and I would be over the bloody moon if that comes with anything customized with it.
And it needs to have a personalised joke for you, doesn't it? For Greg, you know, it could be something like that. An AI agent scouring your social platform, and then before you know it, you have a Greg-style joke, which is probably maybe politically incorrect.
Unique QR code that took me to a Ricky Gervais joke that was customized for me. That would make my year. Yeah. So I think a lot direct to consumer is going to be a big place going forward. If you're talking true personalization as opposed to just variable.
And I think this is a good point. I think, you know, moving from novelty to utility, definitely having the stakeholders, finding those champions within the business to drive the change. You know, I was the pack guy, the digital guy, but I needed a marketeer, I needed a brand manager, I needed to believe in an idea that was meaningful. And we did the direct to kind of, you know, when I think back on my old, the direct to the consumer one with the personalized Kit Kats, that was a tailored experience, limited run, constrained by the technology of them, but actually the technology of today could make that quite an attractive proposition for direct to consumer, because it was the fulfillment that was the difficult part. Right. And the creative nature of the general public on what they're willing to share it on a picture of a Kit Kat did also ring alarm bells when we had to do the screen by screen approvals. So very brave public. But now technology can unlock even more. So, AI can identify those, the British wit and humour, perhaps, that allows that full scale of direct to consumer to happen. So I think it is a genuinely exciting time. And the hype, yes, we need to dial down. We need to fit this in within the portfolio of conventional print and standard mainstream products and start to elevate it through the editions. And I think that's where it builds part of the brand story.
Yeah, you've got
Interestingly,
you've got that late stage personalisation where you can put an image of a face. So you could have it turn up tomorrow or today with your face on it. You may or may not want that, but that is obviously for very late stage. It's how do we implement it for the bigger markets that the brands really want to engage with.
I thought I've got a lot of Captain Morgan's with my face and the pirate's face. It's great. It doesn't solve a problem, but I don't want to throw that away. I've still got about this much rum in it, and I still don't want to throw it away. When it's empty, I want to keep that.
and that's valuable for brands, right? It's the same as the Johnny Walker bottle I've got home with Barry on it. It's never going to be opened. I mean, when I pass away, my kids will be like, "What the hell's this?" And they'll probably drink it. And I hope it gets drunk at some point. But it's true, and it's an additional sale. I wouldn't have bought that Johnny Walker bottle. Now, okay, we're a bit niche because we're all digital print packaging type nerds, so we will go and buy that thing. And I think there is an argument for that. I think we've seen a bit with.
Yeah.
I've done some posts on my social media recently about the cardboard Quality Streets and the Heroes packs. Like, there's lots of people running out to buy those from the industry, but that doesn't mean that the consumer likes them. We run around getting these things. Interestingly, back on the Kit Kat thing, and I've been quite outspoken about this in the past, sorry Stefan, but I never understood it. And I knew Ultimate at the time, so I knew who was doing what in the industry. But I never understood that campaign. I won 2, if not 3 of them. I gave one to my son. So I'd used a picture. Like, what picture did I put on? So I put a picture of him and his mate at his mate's birthday. This is obviously a few years ago. Go-karting. So pictures on there. His mate's in the middle on the podium. But when it arrived, I gave it to my son. I said, "Take this, give it to your friend at school." So we gave it to him, and I was like, I'm really excited to get the feedback from it. Bearing in mind, it was in that cardboard box that folded open like it was very nice. And I saw the kid a few weeks later. Said, "Oh, what do you reckon to that Kit Kat I gave you?" He went, "Yeah, it was lovely, thanks."
Yeah,
He's like, "Yeah, but what about the picture on the front?" He went, "Oh, I didn't even look at it." He literally opened it, ripped it open, ate it. He didn't care that his face. And I know anyway that wasn't a profit-driving initiative, right? That was really a brand elevation marketing campaign.
And that's what
lost
the
money.
Is for. Yeah,
yeah,
yes, it is. And getting it working on a standard production line, it was the real challenge.
It was dipping your toe into the market sector of variable images and things like that.
It is, and I think that's
really
is that
high end. Is that high end? Like if it was a tag watch, for instance, you'd expect it.
Yeah, and I think you're better off going for those. It's like the Dutch barn. I use the analogy about the mobile phones. The first mobile phones cost $50,000. They weren't targeting me, and they weren't targeting my 16-year-old daughter. They were targeting the people who had $50,000 that meant nothing to them, but the time meant money to them. So they knew who their market was, and they went after their market. And then as they developed the technology and moved on, now everyone's got a mobile phone. You can get a mobile phone for a tenner. They're not expensive, and now everyone's got one. But initially they didn't, and they've moved. They had a stepping stone of what I call the stepping stones of commercial opportunity. They knew who their target was. I think the problem was after Share a Coke, everybody thought, "Oh, brilliant, we can go for the volume market." And they go for places like Kit Kat, which is probably not the right place. They'd have probably been better off focusing on the lower volume, higher value market opportunities versus Coke, which is very high volume, very low value, same as all beverages, generally soft drinks. Go for the spirits, go for the luxury goods, and there people are willing to pay. Or you can absorb that extra cost much more easily than you can in the kind of FMCG stuff.
So when we talk about some sort of successful personalization campaigns going forward, what do we think when it comes to being measurable? What should brands be measuring as a result from their campaign? What do you think actually matters at the end of it?
I think you haven't got any marketeers here. I'm going to say
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah, well, awareness is the first driver, isn't it, Greg? You know, and we've just discussed about it. You know, at the Kit Kat, the Coke, the amount of awareness that created in social post and media has a value. But I think now when you bring in the connected pack, the code, and the elements together, I think we now can actually get into the data side of it a lot more. We can look at those kind of engagement rates, the repeat interactions and purchases. If you're linking it to a PIM and everything else, you can start to really see the kind of numbers, which is important. And then there's the social side, there's the conversational, the social media monitoring, what are they doing with it, but, these are the things that drive change, but they are also things that you can learn from, and I think that's the bit that connected digital enablers adds value to digital print, because we can learn from all these things now. So the campaigns that we run, we can now only accelerate and improve on, so that all those rates are addressed even more.
I think for me,
Yeah.
GS1 is massive. That's going to change the game when it comes to digital print and connecting with the consumer. Okay, initially, most brands, it'll be a static code. They'll be the same for every SKU. It'll be no different to the current EAN. But if the technology suppliers like you guys at Domino can come with solutions that allow us to print online or near line, or actually at our existing printers, but with a unique code that we can then assign to a batch. Imagine we can put batch numbers on. I get very excited about the idea of using these codes to interact with the consumers to get consumer feedback. When we changed to tethered caps, thank you, Europe. When we changed to tethered caps, there was a lot of funny stuff going on social media and a lot of pushback. It's been accepted now, as we expected, and it's a good thing because it's meaning more plastic is getting to recycling. But the initial hurdle was huge for brand owners and for consumers. But to be able to get direct feedback through that code and know who that consumer is that's giving you that feedback, I think there's some really exciting things that we can do there.
Yeah, it's really exciting for Domino as well, because you imagine out there, a lot of these labels that you mentioned with the code on, with the GS1, which it will be shortly in the next couple of years. You've got a lot of analog printers out there. They're running flexo lines. The ink is a lot cheaper than digital ink, and the runs are really long. So to be able to put a variable code, because it doesn't need to be personal, it's just a variable code until it's scanned and they log into their account with that code. It just enables high speed, high production at maximum profit per label or box, whatever it may well be that you're printing onto. And that's where you embrace digital into the world of analog, and it becomes hybrid. Yeah. So hybrid, high speed, especially if it's just a print bar where it's just one color, you're just doing the code. You can run at those speeds that those guys expect you to run at. So
I think that's the point, Stephen, isn't it? It is exciting, GS1, and we partner quite a lot with you, and the cost isn't there because you're converting these lines, you're adding the value in line. QR code is going to be the entry point. We've just launched our report literally yesterday, and we can share the links on the back of this. But the report is saying 90% of brands are embracing this technology now. I hope it's going to be more than static, Greg, but you're going to have those unboldened brands that are just going to do the bare minimum, which is a shame, and it's going to tackle the DPP, the digital product passport side, and even I'm seeing articles being put forward around Europe for PPWR and the use of digital codes and the recycle instructions and that mess and that whole conundrum. So what's going to actually come through Europe is even going to enforce the use of these even more, which will then hopefully guide us to that more dynamic coding, which we all crave for, because it gives us the needing of the ingredients and the materials, but it gives us that consumer engagement piece. And that's the true value unlock that we see coming over the hill. And those brands that we're working with, and you rightly say, the beverages, the luxury, the fashions, they're absolutely leading the way. FMCG is dragging its heels as always. But that's the way it's always been.
It's the brands that take and engage earlier will be, okay, we're talking about a QR code now and is that personalisation, but it will lead to more personalisation because of the data that the brand owners are going to collate on these customers. So the more they engage, the more data they get, then they can start producing and looking at how do we personalise things to these people, these loyal customers of ours.
For me, it comes back to what I was saying before about these stepping stones of commercial opportunity. And there is a cost. If I wanted to say we're going to put a unique QR code or GS1, unique GS1 on Lucozade, every Lucozade bottle in the world, that's a massive investment on our part. And at the moment, yes, we can foresee some benefits to it, but they probably don't outweigh the additional cost and complexity to the supply chain which it would bring with it. And I think the important thing for me is and for other FMCGs should be doing the same, is watching what the others are doing. The people, the billionaires of my mobile phone scenario comparison, where are they? So looking at what are cosmetics, toiletries, they have much bigger margins, they have much smaller volumes, much higher value.
Mhm.
They can absorb those costs much more easily, and then they're therefore more likely to be the ones that go first. And what we can then do is monitor what they're doing. So yes, I understand the frustration of the industry and thinking, yeah, everyone's dragging their feet. Yes, but at the end of the day, we need to see the value for what that investment brings. Unless we're told, if legislation tells industry tethered caps, in reality, no one would have done that off their own back because the investment was massive disruption. But legislation comes and we do it. I think GS1 and DRS, deposit return systems, digital deposit return systems, the ability to unlock at-home recycling, so curbside deposit return as opposed to going back to a machine and doing the reverse vending. Those kind of things we know people are looking at, that could work and that could be really beneficial. Then there's
Absolutely
you can
in the
pay the price.
GS1. Yeah, definitely be in that code.
So I know there's a lot of work going on at the moment with how the DRS system in the UK particularly is going to work. But it will inevitably, like everything, it will develop over time as well. So however it starts will not be however it ends. That's for sure.
And that's what the data's saying as well, Stephen. Great. Honestly, we know 78% of people agree that the code can help them recycle more responsibly or understand that what is an absolute minefield to even experts like us, which bin. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they're even taking it all the way to the MRFs of the future where it can connect there as well. We're seeing a lot of innovation in QR code marking and things that can happen, but I believe AI will take that over anyway. But ultimately, it could genuinely unlock. And that's where the money starts to come in. And I think you mentioned another point, Greg, which is the kind of unforeseen and the less sexy part of this whole print connected part is the supply chain efficiencies it can actually give you. Where has my pallet of booze gone? Is it going to a grey market? Can you adapt it through the production line all the way to the consumer, direct to consumer, and have a complete value exchange that's, hits the customer, hits you, hits the consumer, changes, transforms. That's where it gets genuinely exciting. And that's when the numbers start to really roll in your benefit and the investments wipe the face instantly.
Yeah, I fully agree. Traceability, authenticity, all those kind of things. A very quick one. Since this is my first podcast I've ever done, if you want to listen to another podcast after you listen to this one, the Talking Rubbish podcast.
Robbie.
Talking Rubbish, Robbie and James.
Yeah.
That they go into because they talk a lot about the DRS and okay, they haven't really talked much about digital print yet. But if you want to learn more about recycling and that kind of stuff, listen to that. Little shout out for them. It's
I like Robbie. He was on the panel last year. He's great.
Every week it's my go-to. Thursday morning, first thing, bin day. I wake up all excited.
Well, you're seeing machines where you take the stuff to mainly in Europe, really more than the UK, and it just scans the code. And you're not going to have a label full of different codes for different things. It has to go in one code. So all that promotion, all the loyalty, the personalisation, all goes to a website. It goes to your website, the brand owners. You've captured that person. And now, obviously, on top of that, you can also include the recycle details as well for when it's scanned. But yeah, you say it's all about the infrastructure after the label. Is it there to enable that to happen? And there is a cost on the brand owners and that to take into account.
Yeah, I think with DRS, if you can scan a code, so if I buy a bottle of, I'm going to buy Lucozade, obviously, because that's the best
Mm.
drink. If I buy a bottle of Lucozade in the shop, and if the barcode, imagine this is, I don't think this is even possible to say, but if the barcode or the GS1 was unique, I scan it at the till, that effectively, rather than I pay the deposit, but it goes automatically, and that bottle then becomes my ownership because that bottle is suddenly unique, only possible because of digital print. It's unique. It belongs to me. I imagine how seamless the world would be if I then go past a bin, I throw it in a reverse vendor, it scans the code, it knows that I was the owner of that bottle, and it immediately credits my account with the money back. Instead of me having to scan in and type it and get a receipt. I lived in Belgium for 16 years and everything, all the returnable, refillable stuff, in fact, there, it's not even a standard deposit return for one way, it's refillable. You take your crate of beer back, you put it in the machine, it gives you a voucher for £5, you go in the shop and you spend it. That's how it works there. So it incentivizes the supermarkets. None of that hassle can be there. You can literally just drop the crate and it automatically knows. It could scan the crate and the bottles in it and say, right, all those 24 are there. They were all owned by Greg. Now they're owned by us again. Here's your money back. It's totally seamless transaction for what is very complicated change in behavior for the consumer when we transition to DRS.
We'll now hear a short break to hear a message from our supporters. Running a label and packaging business? You don't have to face the challenges alone. The Digital Labels and Packaging Member Group brings business leaders together to share solutions, avoid costly mistakes, and tackle the issues that matter to you most. Connect with others who truly understand your world. The Digital Labels and Packaging Member Group. Join today to make your tomorrow easier. So do we think this is maybe an area of low-hanging fruit potentially for entry into a personalization campaign? As you were saying, the less, glamorous stuff and much more about creativity and transactional, logistics identification, as opposed to, making a consumer smile when they pick up a chocolate bar or a drink.
Yeah.
I just think it's the first step. It's the first step to a more engaged personalisation, isn't it? So getting that customer engagement to start with. Yes, you've had the name on the Coke bottle. And, hey, look, there's Stephen. Brilliant. I'll buy one. Then you go back to your normal brand that you drink. So it's getting that customer engaged, and then because as you just mentioned, Greg, all the stuff you potentially could do in the future, but then it becomes Big Brother. So there is that line, I think, to build up to.
Yeah. But did you buy a bottle with your name on this year? I bet you did back in 2013, but did you buy one this year?
Are they doing it this year? Was it done on a domino?
They did it again. No, not on a domino. HP have got that locked up.
Yeah. But again, that's not the technology's fault. That's just lack of creative ambition. Yes, that's just, you need to do something different, especially in FMCG. And I think there's loads of low-hanging fruit because most people have really only dabbled it on a campaign or limited edition. You need to get rid of that mindset and look at a more utilitarian kind of use of it. Come talk to me. If the shackles are off, I've got tons of ideas. But generally, and honestly, there's loads of digital printers out there. There's loads of coding opportunities. The technology is there. So that complexity is gone. Pick your partners. There's loads of great partners, and you've got to find the right ones. Those that believe and those that can take a challenge head on, I think is super important. If we go back to our days of Ultimate and Chris, I think I made him retire because I was that demanding, in terms of what we did. But then we had a great laugh in trying to do things, predominantly on a HP press, but there are others out there now. But no, I think, start with, there's certain things you have to do. And we talk about the sustainability stories. There are requirements that you have to do something. So that's the bit you have to do. But then if you're going to go to the trouble of coding or digitally printing, embellish it, do something more with it, do something more with the creative storytelling, so start to look at those more customizable contents and look at the added value and the problems you're trying to solve. If we go back to the very beginning, Greg, is it a problem you're trying to solve, or is it a promotional gimmick, added value, instant win that does have higher spikes of engagement? You've got to really define those lanes. And once you've defined them, print them, test them, limited, learn from it, get the data, and improve. Rinse and repeat. But you've still got to do something a little bit different than a name. And I think, unless it's a gift, high end, maybe even low end, if you go to travel retail, you're spending, if you chocolate bars 3 times the amount, booze a little bit less depending on what country you're going to, but all the commodity stuff is high volume, high price. But even they're personalized opportunities. And I think for brands that are in those spaces, in those controlled environments, that should be your kind of Pandora's toolbox. That should be your exploratory lab. What works, what doesn't, if you are risk adverse. Or just go with the data, try limited editions, learn from it, and scale up quickly.
I mean, I'm not here to sell IoT to sharp ends, but I have had the pleasure of working with you guys for quite some time, and quite often it's the case of, right, here's a tech, what the hell can we do with it? Well, our marketeers, quite often, if you don't understand the tech, you don't understand what's possible. You need someone from the outside looking in to tell you, actually, do you know what else you could do with this? And I think you're right. Problem solving. If you've got a problem to be solved, you sell in, no problem at all. It's an easy sell in. Interestingly, the first time I met the founder of the Sharp End, Cameron, I was less than impressed because I said I'd slated the NFC tag that they put on the Malibu bottle. I was like, why the hell would you do that? Because I had an iPhone, always have, Apple through and through. And I said, I can't even scan it. This is ridiculous. You've had to put a neck hanger on the bottle and with a QR code and a URL. Like, what's the point in the NFC? He said, oh, you're not understanding it properly, Greg. And then he explained that it wasn't about people engaging with the NFC. It was about testing the technology and moving the technology onto another level. And he was annoyingly, because I was wrong, he was right. He was bang on the money. And that's why these agencies, and there are others out there, by the way, that can. So I'm not just selling,
but not as good.
But I'll let you say that. But genuinely, I would encourage brands to go and get support, get help from people, because they're talking to other brands, they're getting ideas, and they can bring inspiration to you. And okay, the share a Coke thing came internally, but it wasn't inspired by digital print. It was inspired by someone's. Initially, it was obviously, can we get that bottle to that person? And then they realized they couldn't. So they said, well, what if we just put it on the shelves with all different names? And someone said, yeah, we'll just print all different names on the labels. Yeah, that'll be easy. Like, I said, oh, we'll just change it. It's easy. Surely that's easy. And then that's the point, though. Then that's where digital print solved the problem of how do I put the different names on, and it's problem solving as opposed to fancy stuff. I think the world has moved on a bit from, there's some exceptions, travel retail being one, where people are willing to pay the money to get brand awareness out there. But Big Brad, can't imagine would Kit Kat do that same thing again? The cost of it, the supply chain for the value. I'm a big Kit Kat eater, by the way. I love Kit Kats. So big fan of the brand, but I was very critical of the campaign because it didn't make any sense to me at the time.
I think it's one of those. I mean, you look at their competition, the Ferreros, the Mondelezes, it's about finding the right proposition, the right value exchange for the right product. And I think they're probably a little bit more successful on it, and they have the scale, and Ferrero, funny enough, when they put their label on that chocolate spread that they do, I had one for my 2 sons, and it ceased to stop the arguments of who's eating theirs first. It is instant win for me. So there is those other hidden advantages that I don't think they actually thought about, but no, I do agree. I think it is an exciting time, and I think where you can go with it, where you could start with it, is just start and be brave and bold in the channels if you have them. If you have an accelerator or a separate part of the business that you can try things to de-risk a little, then try it there. But honestly, with the clinical nature of these printers now, there's the technology is there. There's new technology coming out. NFC, you touched upon it, Greg. I think this is going to be one for the future that's just going to absolutely explode, full of when it becomes printed, it is going to explode. So yeah, there's so much excitement, and there are other agencies out there, to be fair, that we're all doing it. But I'm only as successful as the printers and the converters and the people that we bring together in the room. And it's those relationships over 20 plus years, I stopped counting like most people now, that have made a difference. And, you know, blood, sweat and tears, literally 36-hour print runs, making it happen. Yes, it can do. So be prepared for it, but it's got so much more easier now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, digital definitely has made it easier. But I'll go back to what you said, Greg, you know, about marketing. It's, do the marketeers know everything? Domino, for instance, are we approaching the marketing departments in the right manner to educate them what we can do, but also the likes of Tesco or Walmart or whoever to say, hey, you know, you can embrace this as well. So it's all the way down that supply chain and everyone is totally aware of it, you know, as opposed to just certain sectors.
My advice would be don't bother going directly to marketing. I think the likes of IOTT Sharpen, they need to own the relationship with marketing because they speak marketing speak, and they're very good at it. I think for me, if I was a converter or if I was a technology provider to a converter, I would be going to the likes of myself and my team across Europe. The packaging engineers, the packaging developers in the different markets, they're the people that will make it happen. They're the people that will bring. I did a presentation during lockdown actually, and I talked about a toolkit. And this was talking about Christian from HP at the time. You know, you take digital print, you put it in your toolkit, along with other technologies. You know, there's lots of technologies that we get presented with every day. We're not, and that's the other thing to remember. You live and breathe digital print. That's your job. That's everything. To us, it's a potential solution to a problem we don't yet know we've got. So just make sure that we know that your solution is there and what your solution is can do. And yeah, I mean, keep pestering people. My packaging engineer colleagues will curse me for saying this, but it doesn't hurt to drop an email every now and then and say, "Oh, the best thing is examples. If you can send us an example of where you've done something to unlock another campaign or solve a problem for another brand, they'll love it because that's something they can go and go, oh, by the way, look, did you know about this? And if we know about it before everyone else knows about it, even better. You know, we talked before we went on about the O label thing from Coke, how it started. There was nothing digital about it to start with, but the Japanese team wanted to add something else. They wanted a unique competitive edge to it, so it needed a unique code. Domino's bar printed the unique code on the ribbon that you couldn't see till you pulled the ribbon. So suddenly you add in other things in. It's a solution to a problem, but you know, you need to understand who your customer is.
Yes. Agreed.
So
I think it's an important learning actually just on that, because I want to help people out in the industry and how do we get the great technologies of the Domino's and other converters and what they're doing to the marketeers. I'm one of those freak hybrid roles that have transformed this marketing, packaging, technology, design, and I was a translator internally to my business. And you have to tick those first level boxes. Can it work on our kits? What's the complexity? And that is packaging people. Then it's maybe innovation people if it's something new, or digital transformation. Marketeers, you know, lean in on a partner network, you know, bringing those partners who have that language, who have that connection and can connect your technology will be much more effective for you. And that's kind of what I try to do. But it's not easy. We're overwhelmed, too many emails, you know, and it's why we need things like this. We need events. We need that human thing, which is face-to-face conversation now and again.
And on that, Stefan, how can you think about the listeners to this podcast, will be predominantly printers themselves? How can the sort of print providers arm themselves and get themselves on the front foot approaching brands and say, hey, did you know this is possible? Are you interested? This is what we can do for you. You know, what should they have in their own toolkit, in their own sort of, you know, display of armor when they go into these sort of sales meetings with brands? How can they communicate the benefits clearly?
I let Greg answer this and then I'll reflect on what Greg does, because I'm no longer the brand. I'm now the agency. I have a point of view, but I will definitely reinforce what Greg will, I expect to say.
Yeah, I talked about Christian and Christian Mellingon again from HP. I think if you've gone, HP obviously had a lot of money and they were building, right? They were building the Indigo portfolio and they were building the brand. And they had people, they had a whole team, and I was fortunate to have Christian. But I think there's an element of, yes, you need people out in the field talking to the brand owners and understanding what they need. But I would also urge, and I think HP do it quite well. Again, sorry, maybe Domino do
It's
as well.
okay.
But my introduction to HP came through Christian, but also through S-House, the digital printer the print converter in the Netherlands, who ran the whole Share a Coke campaign. I assume they probably did this year as well. I don't know, but that connection. So technology provider with a converter. There's two sides to that. One is that a brand owner doesn't want to be told who they buy stuff from. Right. So if HP said to me, you have to buy your labels from S-House, that our procurement people would feel uneasy with that. So there's a net positive and a negative to it. But when it's about approaching the likes of S-House and other printers, MCC, CCL, Fujifilm, those guys have relationships with us already. They know us. They know what our business is doing. So if you can work with them, it's a way to get in the front door. You can even not even send your people in to the likes of Suntory. You could work with, again, I'm going to use MCC or CCL. You could talk to them and get them to bring the technology into us. Even if they haven't got the technology, as long as they know that it's available and they could implement it. We were talking about hybrid presses. If you've got a flex or a Gravure press and then you want to bolt on a digital bit to do single color unique coding, let them know that they can do it. And then they can, it's a business, so they can also buy it from someone else, right? They could buy I'm not going to name any other names, but there's other people that make inkjet presses, right, or inkjet heads. But if they know, then there's more chance. The bigger the pie, the bigger the portion that you get as a technology supplier at the end of it.
Yeah, the big MNCs are crucial to the sector for the likes of Domino. But obviously, there's a lot of smaller customers out there of ours also are dealing with niche markets, for instance. Not such longer runs. So yeah, we work with everybody and we do go directly to those likes of those people. Yeah.
Before Stefan, I know you're going to say something in a second, but as you were saying that, it did just occur to me that, and it's not a topic at the moment, but there have been times in the past decade or so where brand owners have been talking about bringing the technology in-house themselves, as the print capability becomes faster and greater and cheaper, and there probably are brands out there who have their own in-house digital presses. So I guess at that point, then you need to be talking to the brand owners, but I haven't heard much in that space recently. I'm also not a big fan of it. I think stick to what you know well, do one thing and do it well. We make beverages and we make really bloody good beverages. And we do it well. I don't want us to become a digital print company. So I would definitely be on the side of working with a partner nearby if possible, just for the fulfillment part, but working with a close partner if it is something that you want to do from a late stage perspective. Sorry, Steph.
No, I was literally going to say that is the utopia that will absolutely hit the money if you can get it right, and it's not just mothballing a machine and it's going to stand there and collect dust. You have to have the right infrastructure within a brand or a retail organization to do that, and that is the future that a lot of people are concerned on. It's a converter's nightmare almost, but it is happening. I know organizations where they're starting to bridge, and I think anything that has a label is probably game, in some sort of description. But you have to. Thankfully, most factories are full to the hilt, so that's it needs to be purpose built factories. But I think those purpose built factories of the future, modular, with all the elements and bells and whistles, could be something that's happening. And I know that it is in parts of the world. And that is genuinely frightening and exciting at the same time. But you still need the ideas, you still need the creativity, you still need that network, and you still need new technologies coming through. So it can't be stagnant. But I think what's interesting now that I've come to the other side, shall we say, whether it be the light or dark side, whatever your interpretation is I am doing exactly what I was doing at the brand and bringing and connecting people together, whether it be the technology, the printer, the coder. And I do this with Domino, this. We come together in a room with the brand and we provide the confidence, and we're all experts and we can go quick. And go quick is the word of the moment. Go quick, use a little bit of AI sprinkles in there if you can as well. That always, buzzwords always help. But having confidence in the technology and cost and speed, these are the languages now, and DNA in your sustainability. And I can't do that on my own. I need a material substrate provider. I need a printer, a coder. I need different people within the brand to convince and to be bringing on board and make heroes and champions of, so that they can ultimately look cool and good in the business and do really cool stuff, but also do the numbers and look at the other benefits that the print technology is providing, which is the supply chain, the authenticity, the compliance, the PPWR answers, perhaps. So it is a genuinely exciting time. If I go back to the beginning, is digital print, is it now in its heyday? It has to be, is my answer. There is never a better time with everything that's coming through with GS1 mandates, sustainability. There is no better set of equipment that can handle the true end to end and look at the creative and the must do at the same time. And that genuinely is something that all these manufacturers and OEMs will be grasping. And yes, HP have great relationships. I remember Christian and the team and Amir and Pepe and all of them, the fantastic people. But that's a long-term strategy. It's a long-term curating of that confidence. And everyone wants to go quick. So we need to find something a little bit quicker, which we can do now.
Yep.
Exciting.
It's interesting because we've moved away from personalisation, right, in the conversation, it feels slightly. And I think that tends to be what happens, because personalisation is the bit people talk about. It's the bit that gets the visibility. But I suspect if you were to remove, no, I don't suspect, I know, if you were to extract the share of Coke volumes from the world of digital print and look at where digital print is being used today, even with the Coke volumes in, personalisation is probably a very small, I'd like to know actually, maybe someone at a magazine like Digital Labels and Packaging would know the answer to this. What percentage of digital print consumed today is actually for personalisation? Because I said I would gamble at less than 10%, far less. In fact, I'm going to go for less than 1%, in fact, because if you think about all the direct mail stuff, that's not really personalisation.
Yeah.
And it's the needed personalisation versus the wanted personalisation. That makes sense. I don't want a letter that comes to my house that's telling me I've got a water bill. That's digital personalisation. I don't want it. It's not real personalisation. You can keep that, thanks.
Yeah.
Water 7 Trent or whatever it is. I don't want it. That's not what gets me excited. But that's where the volume is today, I imagine, in that kind of stuff, and like newspapers and things like that. But it's how do you unlock the other stuff?
I think to get customer engagement in numbers is going to be via your mobile phone, where customers want to scan for a reason. So it could be allergies or ingredients, but it also takes you to your website, and then you've got them. Then you engage with them on your website.
Yeah, I think the packaging, personalised, customised, will add value. But it's more and more becoming the portal to the thing that you just showed on your hands. And for the listeners, that was a mobile phone, just in case. I'm just conscious that you didn't say what you had.
All types of brands.
But no, I do think it is packaging as a portal now, and digital's a word I've bounded around, that we need both to get better awareness and better statistics. But yeah, it's a good challenge, Greg. I think we should throw that to Smithers and Mika and a few people and see what we can actually get on data there, because I think it's going to be a low number. But in certain territories like gifting, I think it's going to be very high. I think that's.
And it's where the money is, right? As well. Again, if you're a brand, we come back. If you look at all the customization or personalization campaigns that ever happened, I suspect Coke and very few others are the ones that actually make money. A lot of them lose money and are therefore a marketing campaign. It's fine. How do you find that sweet spot? What's that? Is it Tails or Wags or something? I don't know. There's some dog food brand that I can't afford to buy, but they print the name of your dog on it. And but what's really interesting about that is the customization of the name isn't the cool part. That just emphasizes the fact that that product has been customized for your dog, or at least you're made to believe it's customized for your dog.
Yeah.
So in that case, people probably don't care about having their Stella. I'm going to call my dog's name out. I don't want Stella written on it, but the fact that Stella's written on it helps reconfirm the fact that the product inside the bag is customized also. And that's the other thing. You know, we're focused on digitally printing and customization of packaging, but the customization of the actual product. And there was a nutraceuticals kind of, I don't know, things that you take, additive type powders and stuff that they take these days. There was a brand that the name escapes me again now. I talked about it some years ago, and they printed the name on these little sachet stick things. But again, it was more to emphasize the fact that what was inside it was customized for you. You know, the Kit Kat, going back to the Kit Kat, the wrapper was customized. It had my face on it. I don't care. The Kit Kat itself wasn't. It was a normal 4-stick Kit Kat. It tasted like a normal 4-stick Kit Kat. And I think, again, that for me, if I was in the market of selling digital print, I would be going after those places that are customizing the product, because they've got it easy, right? I mean, it's a one-off production, or at least they make you believe it is like that. The Johnny Walker one wasn't one-off either, by the way, as I am led to believe. It was like the website guided you to one of 5 products, one way or another, depending on which taste profile you put in. Either way, you ended up with 1 of 5, and then they stuck a label on it and laser engraved the bottle. But it was beautiful. Beautiful. I don't know about the liquid. I don't care. It was beautifully executed. The frustrating thing about that one, actually, again, and the theory in that was that this product was customized for me. I actually know it wasn't, but most consumers would have believed that someone was in the lab mixing the liquid and pouring it in the bottle, putting their name on. The most frustrating thing about that was the box it came in was actually digitally printed, but not customized. That because the volumes were so small, it fell into the digital print category of print. But they didn't use it to digitally print and customize something. So the box itself was generic, but digitally printed. What a waste. But the label and the bottle had this customization part on it. So I think, I mean, I'm going off a little bit there because that was they probably made money on it, the amount of money I had to spend for it. But yeah, people will pay for a product that's customized. I don't think people are happy to pay for a packaging that's customized. That's a big statement, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. I mean, you can pay just for personalized packaging as an entity itself, but the product and pack is king, isn't it, or queen, or in between. They versions. But ultimately, that is the utopia, and you can customize these products. For me, that is where the chocolate bar campaign, we did print it on the bar eventually, and there was all these things you could do. It's about scaling the innovations as the technology arrives, the vendors arrive. Sometimes you just got to roll with these things. And I think, I applaud any brand or retailer who just tries and then learns from it and makes it bigger and better. And that in itself creates a general buzz and appetite for consumers, because they know that, okay, I got this last year, what do I do this time? Unless it's a heritage brand where you expect that kind of provenance, it's a different story. But again, it's fit for purpose, fit for brand, fit for price point, fit your demographic. Technology's there then, and it does sound like they dropped the ball there on the box. And it probably ended up in a different department.
Yeah.
Silos.
But it is frustrating when you see these open goals that people miss. I think if you remember, Steph, the judging for the awards this year, there was one particular entry which it was beautiful, but you and the other judges all said, "What if they just did, like a variable data version of this design on each one? What it would just take it to from 50 to 100 immediately, and it's stuff
exactly
like that.
Your point, Greg. They were using digital print, but
Not
they weren't
using
using it creatively, and it was a beautiful dance, and we were just, as you do when you're judging these things, and it was a really good judging crew. And actually, it was a chap from Diageo there, Andrew, was on the table, and that bottle came out a few times, didn't it? But no, it was really just like they go to all the trouble. They're paying a premium, most likely, click rates if it's one of those. They just need to. And it's the education piece, and it goes back to what Stephen was saying, and Greg was like, bringing the right partners who keep pushing you, keep challenging you, and if even it doesn't go and release one, you've got your pipeline for the next one, and it's kind of like, and that's how you should be thinking. It's like, okay, we can drip feed the technology, or we can go big bang and hope something else comes along. There's so many different ways, and it all depends on the brand culture.
It's funny to talk about the awards, because I was obviously been kicked off the panel now, but I was in the judging panel a couple of years ago, and we had the same conversation multiple times And I think it raises the question, maybe someone should digitally print a sticker that just says, are you really using this technology as much as you should be? Because every time someone's saying, I'm using digital, and yeah, you might be using digital, a lot of these can printing, Osthouse, brilliant company, by the way. I've never met them, but the Sainsbury's supermarket shelf, craft beer shelf is full of Osthouse, and they've got, maybe I shouldn't say it on here, but they've got a digital direct to can printing. They've got label, they do can labeling. They're a brewer. They fill cans for people. They've got direct to can digital printing, which I never thought was going to be a thing, but I love it now. So again, I was proven wrong there. And it looks great. It feels great, but they're not using the variable data. There's nothing variable data on it. And maybe the technology for direct to can is a bit harder, but they do use a lot of labels as well. And not just them, there's others doing it. And when you see a digital printed label, they're printing it digitally because of the volume. The brand should automatically, or maybe the converters should be saying, by the way, you're buying this because the volume's so low that we're not going to bother making some plates for it. But in doing that, and you're paying a premium for it, it does also unlock the opportunity for you to do something variable. Why aren't you doing something variable? Even if it's just a unique code and you turn it on later, like 1, 2, 3, the amount of, those sorts of beers, you put a nice artwork on a bottle, people will save it. Artists sign their things 1 of 200, 2 of 200, 3 of 200. Okay, you might be talking 2 of 200,000, but it doesn't matter. It's still something unique and it makes people feel a little bit special.
I think embedded in our behavior.
Yeah, that could be quite a nice place to end it, guys. So Steve, Steph, and Greg, thank you all very much for joining me in the discussion. So there'll be hopefully this will be released hopefully sometime soon, and also in the magazine as well. So
fantastic.
Excellent.
Our pleasure.
That's great. Yes, thank you very much.